Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll take you through the step-by-step process of painting an Oliphaunt from the popular board game War of the Ring 2nd Edition. So grab your brushes, paints, and let's get started. Starting from a white primed miniature, I'm going to start focusing on the skin of the Oliphaunt. We'll be using a gray color paint for this part. I'm using Army Painter's Gravelord Gray for the entire skin area, ensuring smooth and even coverage, taking my time to build up the colors gradually as needed. So today I'm speed painting the Oliphaunt, simply because War of the Ring is one of those games where there's about 210 miniatures in the pack, plus all the expansions. So when you're looking at that many miniatures, I'm just looking to get something nice and painted on the table so I can have a good time with my friends. For those that are unfamiliar with the War of the Ring, it is a strategy board game based off the Lord of the Rings books and movies, where one player controls the free peoples and the other the forces of Sauron. Through asymmetrical objectives and gameplay, a rich narrative will play out in your own version of the war at the end of the Third Age. It's a great game to sit down and play a few hours with a friend, especially if you're a fan of the source material. Next, I'll focus on the howdah, the platform on top of the Oliphaunt. I'll be using a rich brown color for this part, specifically the Army Painter Speedpaint Hardened Leather. Taking my brush and applying the brown paint all over the howdah and making sure to cover all the surfaces evenly while allowing it to pool in the recesses. Moving on, we'll tackle the fabric of the Oliphaunt. For this, we use a vibrant red color. I'm using blood red from the Army Painter Speedpaint line and carefully applying it to all the fabrics on the sides of the Oliphaunt, being mindful of all the intricate details. I'm also going to get the front of the Oliphaunt with the red as well. Being careful with this paint not to get it anywhere else in the mini, as it's one of the harder paints to cover up. The red also adds a nice pop of color. Time to give some attention to the tusks and toenails. We'll be using a speed paint called Pallid Bone for this step. I'll apply the pallid bone to the tusks and toenails, making sure to highlight their unique textures and shapes. You'll notice I'm applying the pallid bone directly over the Gravelord Gray for the toenails, and that's just going to give it a little bit of a darker color compared to the tusks themselves. Now we're going to add a touch of color to the circles on the Oliphaunt. Going around using Fire Giant Orange from the Speed Paint line, I'll carefully paint in the circles on the miniature, ensuring not to get any on the surrounding areas. I'll also use this color to paint the gentleman on top of the Oliphaunt as well. Aside from adding a bit of color to the Oliphaunt itself, orange is significant to the Oliphaunt as it's the faction color used in the board game War of the Ring. Returning to a little detail I missed, I'm going to grab my hardened leather again and get the wrappings that are around the tusks. I'll carefully apply the hardened leather to the wrappings, accentuating the texture and adding depth to this area. Moving on to one of the final parts of the mini, I'm going to be focusing on all the metal bits. I'll be taking the brass paint from the Vallejo Metallics line and mixing it with a bit of Hoplite Gold from the Army Painter Speedpaint line, and that's just going to allow the paint to flow a bit better. Using this, I'm going to get all the coins on either side of the howdah, and I'm also going to paint the armor on the Oliphaunt itself. Using the gold paint from the Vallejo Metallics line, I'll also be mixing in some Hoplite Gold in order to help it flow a bit better, and this is just going to get the crescent moon on top of the Oliphaunt. Moving on to basing, I'm going to keep it pretty simple today. Just going to use some cheap black acrylic paint from the dollar store, and I'm going to fill in all the area beneath the Oliphaunt. As mentioned before, orange is the faction color for this faction in War of the Ring, so I'm going to use Fire Giant Orange just to rim the base to add to the readability of the mini while on the board. Thanks for joining me today for my speed paint of the Oliphaunt from War of the Ring 2nd Edition. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for our next video.